And we are live.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Reverend Dr. Katrina Foster, pastor of St. John's Lutheran Church in beautiful Greenpoint, Brooklyn. And this is our midweek Lenten um, pop up testimonial. It's a time that Lutherans give up their reticence to talk about their faith. And we talk about belonging to a congregation and what a difference being loved by Jesus makes in our lives. And I have had just the greatest gift this last year. I have a confirmation class, and I've had confirmation classes, over the course of 27 years of ordained ministry. This is the first time I have all boys, and I cannot tell you what a joy these boys are. They, I, I'm going to make all my pastor friends jealous. These boys read in advance, come with questions, are curious, thoughtful, articulate, and just some of the nicest young men you will ever meet. And I get to be their pastor. And you're going to meet two more of them um, during this series. But tonight, we have Effe with us tonight. Effe
Hey.
is a hi. Effe is in high school and he is a student at Stuyvesant. I'm going to brag. He's also the quarterback, um, and which I think is just great. I'm going to say that you're kind of a quarterback in the vein of like Patrick Mahomes, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
You won't see me out the pocket a lot, so
right, right. And just, intellectually rigorous, physically well, spiritually sound. And so, Fa, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so
that was my
grateful
pleasure. Yeah.
that you're here tonight. So, first question is, how did you come to St. John's? And you have a really great story around that. Would you just
Yeah.
tell us?
Yeah. So when I was around 6 or 7, around like kindergarten age, my family and I we lived around Manhattan, and I wouldn't really say I was the fastest learner because nobody's really a fast learner at age 6 or 7. But take the normal 6-year-old and just divide that by two. I was awful. So though I was enthusiastic, I was getting out there, I couldn't really take in what I was giving out. I couldn't really understand what was being said around me. So there was always that little language barrier impeding behind in the back of my head where I would love to say stuff, but I wouldn't really understand what was being said to me. So that always kind of kept me isolated to myself. Because if you're another 6-year-old and you see some kid just screaming words, and when you tell him something, he doesn't really look back at you, he doesn't really bat you an eye. It's just like a stare of confusion. You wouldn't really want to get close to that kid. So yeah, for like ages 6 to 7, I was really reserved. And my family and I, we moved to Brooklyn, on the block of the church, and so there I entered a new elementary school. And though it was getting a bit better as I was growing up, and we were in a neighborhood that was not like Manhattan, not really noisy and terrifying, but rather calm, people were talking, people like you, people like the rest of the people in my confirmation group, everybody was just kind of getting along. So it was helping me, but I just still wasn't at that level. So one night I come home, still hard time understanding English, hard time making friends.
So let's say, let me just help with the background. What's your first language?
My parents speak Turkish and they taught me Turkish at home first.
Right.
Right.
So that was your first language. So going from Turkish to English, um, I that's a challenge I can't even
Yeah.
comprehend. But
Yeah.
just so
People like
people
to say,
understand, right?
right. People like to say knowing one language makes it easy to learn another language, but that's really not the case when you're 6 years old. It's just kind of like out with the old, in with the new. So it just kind of throws everything to waste. But I mean, I can still speak very fluent Turkish. That's still our home language. English is also our home language. We have a nice little mix in between the two with like dual sentences. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been creative. But anyways, back to when I was younger, my family sat down and we had a conversation about joining a religious group to not only better connect with the neighborhood. That's what my parents told me, but I think I'm seeing now that it was a way to get me more socially out there. So they talked to me about the church up the block. So we took a walk there one day after school, and we were met by you. I do remember that very vividly. By the steps, you kind of gave us the rundown on everything. You kind of like told us the schedule, and you even invited us on one of the Sundays just stop by and see what was going on. So we came over. We sat down, we got a Bible, and what I remember from that day is picking up the book. At that point, I knew how to read, and seeing the song, and like when the piano started going for the first hymn, I was kind of like, what's going on? But then I started like listening to people singing, and I was looking around, and it seemed like they were having fun. It was all in union, it was all together, and it was just all really smooth and friendly. And I started singing, and I felt like nobody was listening to me, but I was still saying stuff that could be understood by others, if that made
Mhm,
sense, since it was covered by such a friendly group setting.
mhm. Yes.
So first came the songs, and then came the prayers, and then came to awkward conversations you had when you were wishing peace with other people in the intermissions between the communion and stuff.
Mhm.
So that happened, and I kind of picked up on, oh my God, he's saying peace be with you, and he's saying it back. They're having a conversation. Let me try this. So I tried it. I said it. Somebody said it back. I'm like, oh my God, I did it. I spoke with someone and they understood me, and I understood them. Um, so that went around, and then just after weeks of going, speaking, talking, listening, understanding, it just all began to like kind of click for me. Like, this is a church. This is a place where people not only learn, but this is a place where they socialize. This is a place where they get to learn something higher than themselves. So I feel like it was the church that really helped me get out of my shell, and that's why I really appreciate it so much. And that's why I'm so happy to be on here tonight.
So there was a piece, I don't know if you remember this. So I remember meeting you coming up the block, you and your parents and your little brother. I vividly remember that also, and y'all coming and it being a very new thing for you. I remember that.
Mhm.
Um, what you may not remember, because is that you were a big soccer fan,
Yeah.
and there were players that were doing this after they scored a goal. You were a little itty bitty guy, and you asked your parents, "What is that? Why does he do that?" And your parents told you about this is what people who believe in Jesus do.
Mhm.
And that led to some more conversations. And apparently, there was, and this was before I was there, you came to church one Sunday, and Miss Ruth was teaching a Sunday school class.
Right. Sunday school.
And she asked you to bring your baptismal certificate in. And you brought your birth certificate in the next Sunday because you hadn't been baptized.
Right.
And you went back home, and not much had happened for a while, but these conversations were ongoing with you because the soccer players kept doing this.
Right.
And you were a very curious little guy. Um, but I remember I was brand new there. I started serving September 1st of 2015. You and your entire family were baptized at the end of October on that Reformation Sunday,
Mhm.
right? And I remember it was one of the first days I was there, and I was setting up my little office up in the church because
Mhm.
the office was awful, and it was downstairs and
Yeah.
away from everybody. So I had my office upstairs, and I will never forget these two women, or not these two women, your mother and your father coming into the church, spotting me, and running up to me going, "We have to baptize our children." And I was like, "Hi, I'm Pastor Foster. Please sit down." I didn't know your parents.
Right.
Um, and what wonderful human beings they are. And they came in, and I started talking with them. And it turns out they had been raised Muslim. They weren't baptized either.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh, well, let's baptize everybody." And that's when we started talking more. And you know, you were you're a giant now, but you were just this little guy and your brother was even tinier.
Yeah.
And we talked about Jesus and you wanted to know more. And I remember like you just kind of being in the church and looking around and being happy and smiling and holding the book. And your little brother just did anything you did. Like and he still does that, right? He wants to follow
Yeah,
you
yeah,
around.
100%.
I'm a little sister. I get that. But so that's like that first day I met you, I had already met your parents, and it was one of the most amazing, random conversations I'd ever had with somebody. And we baptized your mom, your dad, you, and your brother all at the same time. And your godparents are your neighbors who
Yeah.
live right next door to you,
Yeah,
you
it's a
know?
really nice system.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was that was one of the highlights of my ministry. Baptizing an entire family is just an amazing thing. And to hear you talk about how the congregation helped you, not only in growing in faith, but also language capacity, having the ability, the safety to just
Right.
talk, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely to just talk. Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. Thank you, Effe.
No
One
problem.
more question. You're doing
Yeah.
great. You've got 100 so far. Um, what difference does it make in your life to be loved by Jesus?
I mean, it was just the idea of knowing that somebody would be there looking after me, even if there was nobody else looking after me. Because, I mean, relating it back to my career at Stuyvesant alone, I like to put myself out there. I'm a part of a lot of things, a lot of organizations, but I'm also really focused on my academics. So with everything piling up, there will be many late nights, there will be many after school stays, there will be many early morning rise ups to study in the morning to like guarantee 2 hours of sleep so I don't get anything. So it's not like I don't get anything. And I mean, my mother's always there for me. Like she'll always provide me with what I need. Like as she likes to say, she'll cover the logistics while I try to make it out of my high school career and get into a nice college. But there are times where it'll be 4 a.m. and there is nobody there, and I'm completely fine with it. But there's some instances where you just kind of need a presence, or you just kind of need to feel somebody looking after you when you're alone like that, doing all this brainless work, trying to cram stuff into your head, where it's just nice to like take a step away from your computer, step away from the papers, and just think that there's somebody always wishing the best for you who may not physically be with you, but instead he's spiritually there with you to guide you throughout the way, especially in such a difficult high school career or other tough times that other people may face due to unfortunate events or just not being lucky. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Fa, I'm just delighted.
yeah,
I'm,
so,
I I'm so blessed to get to be your pastor. I really
thank
am,
you.
and I've no doubt that God, whatever you end up doing, and you know, follow your heart, work hard, follow your heart, do well, be a blessing. Um, that whatever that ends up being, God is going to use you in ways you cannot yet completely see or understand or even imagine. And I know that. So thank you, young man, for this tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And, God bless your parents
Yeah,
for just being
I'd
so
love to.
wonderful and loving and just loving you and supporting you. They really have dreamt you, and I have really allowed you to dream, you
Right.
know. So thank you.
You.
And thank you all so much for watching this. Please do like this and share this with groups. Tag your friends on it when you're watching it on YouTube or Instagram. Like and subscribe. And remember the name, F.A. Killick. Because maybe you're
Yeah,
going to hear in the future for really, really good things. So
I
thank
hope
you
so.
all so much for watching. God bless you. And we'll have our pop up testimonial next Wednesday night also. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you so